It's 2010, the Ica Desert in southern Peru, one of the driest places on Earth, except it wasn't always. 13 million years ago, this was the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. The rock you're walking on isn't stone anymore, it's compressed sediment, compressed time. A doctoral student named Giovanni Bianucci is there, sorting through fossil material in the Pisco Formation. Routine work, cataloguing bones, teeth, fragments that didn't make it into the first papers. He reaches into a box. He pulls out a tooth. It's the size of a human forearm, slightly curved, sharp enough to cut. The largest functional tooth ever documented from any predator in Earth's history, 36 centimeters long. Nobody in the field had ever seen anything like it. Within months, the paper was published in Nature. The animal was named after a biblical sea monster because nothing else fit, the Leviathan, except in Hebrew spelling, because the name had already been used for something else. Livyatan melvillei, the whale that hunted other whales. And we found it by accident in a desert. Rewind to 13 million years ago. The Miocene epoch. The ocean off Peru wasn't the fragile balance we think of today. It wasn't a place where everything had a niche and the apex predator ruled from some kind of benevolent distance. It was an arms race, a full, unrestrained evolutionary arms race between animals of a size we don't have today. The waters off Peru were unusually productive. The predecessor of the modern Humboldt Current was running at full capacity, driving cold, nutrient-rich water up from the deep and producing one of the most biologically dense marine environments in the Miocene world. The ocean off South America was swimming in life, small fish in staggering numbers, giant squid, and above all of them, the largest prey in the ocean, the early baleen whales. Baleen whales had been evolving since the Eocene, tens of millions of years before Livyatan. By the Miocene, they had reached substantial size. Some of the species in those Peruvian waters were already 15, 20, even 25 meters long, filtering enormous volumes of water for krill and small fish. These weren't fast animals. They weren't aggressive. They were large, slow, nutritionally dense, and, critically, they had no meaningful defense against a predator that approached from below. And something in those waters had evolved to exploit exactly that. The predators in the Miocene weren't the creatures we recognize from the modern ocean. The sperm whale we know today, the one Moby Dick is based on, isn't the largest or most fearsome sperm whale that ever lived. It's a survivor. Modern sperm whales have functional teeth only in their lower jaw. They hunt squid primarily, not other cetaceans. They're deep divers and largely solitary. They evolved toward flexibility and generalism. That's not what dominated these waters. The evolutionary lineage Livyatan belonged to, the macroraptorial sperm whales, went the other direction entirely. Bigger bodies, teeth in both jaws, specialized for hunting other large marine mammals, not squid. Built for the kind of predation that requires you to win a confrontation with a 20-meter animal and survive the encounter. It was a different strategy from everything the modern ocean produces. And for millions of years, it worked. Livyatan was the apex expression of that lineage. Not the only macroraptorial sperm whale, relatives like Brigma ficita coexisted in different parts of the Miocene Ocean, but Livyatan was the largest, the most specialized, the final statement of what that evolutionary strategy could become before it ultimately collapsed. Here's what Giovanni Bianucci's tooth told us. Livyatan was between 13 and 17 meters long, roughly the length of a school bus. Weight estimates place it around 50 tons. That's heavier than the largest modern sperm whale, heavier than most dinosaurs that ever walked the Earth, heavier than any land predator in the fossil record by a substantial margin. But the real horror wasn't the size. It was the mouth. Unlike modern sperm whales, Livyatan had functional teeth in both the upper and lower jaw. Up to 18 teeth per side, interlocking when the mouth closed. Teeth that interlocked between upper and lower jaws in a vise. The largest ones curved backward, not designed for slicing, not designed for grinding, but designed specifically for grip. For securing purchase on a thrashing, panicking animal that outweighed you by a significant margin and very much wanted to get away. The 36-centimeter tooth Bianucci found is the largest functional tooth ever documented from any predator in Earth's history. For comparison, the largest Megalodon teeth top out around 18 to 20 centimeters. The largest modern sperm whale tooth reaches perhaps 20 centimeters in exceptional specimens. Livyatan's tooth is roughly double that. And those teeth didn't just grip. The curved shape meant that as the prey animal thrashed and pulled backward, the teeth penetrated deeper. The harder the prey fought, the worse the situation became. The baleen whales of the Miocene didn't have teeth. They had baleen plates, keratin filtering structures hanging from the roof of the mouth. They couldn't bite back. When a 50-ton predator comes up from below and locks both jaws, upper and lower, all 36 of those teeth, into the side of your head or the base of your skull, you have nothing. No evolved counter-strategy, no defense that works at that scale. Livyatan hunted by ambush, coming from below and behind. The same approach used by modern orcas hunting great whales, but executed by an animal twice the size with teeth no modern predator carries. One strike placed correctly, one set of jaws locked on. Then it was over. The teeth weren't for chewing, they were for holding, for guaranteeing that once you were caught, you stayed caught, and nothing on Earth had the power to change that outcome. Here's the question that stops paleontologists. Livyatan didn't live alone in those waters. It coexisted with something equally terrifying. Megalodon. The largest shark that ever lived was already in those oceans off Peru when Livyatan evolved. 18 meters of apex predation, 60 tons of muscle and teeth. Everything about Megalodon was designed to crush bone, vertebrae, ribs, flippers. It didn't hunt like a modern great white, striking and retreating. Megalodon hunted by targeting the internal organs of large prey, biting through the ribcage or pelvis, collapsing the body from within. We know they coexisted in the same water at the same time because their fossils come from the same geological formation, the Pisco Formation in Peru, in the same stratigraphic layers. Not just fossils, but teeth from both species found in the same sediment alongside baleen whale remains. They were in the same place at the same time, hunting the same animals. Livyatan and Megalodon hunted the same prey, baleen whales, the largest prey in the ocean. In a world with finite hunting grounds and finite baleen whales, two apex predators existing in the same space creates a resource problem, unless there's some division of niche that allows both to persist without driving each other to extinction. What scientists found on the bones tells us something about the dynamic: bite marks, teeth impressions, lacerations that tell a story of survival. Some baleen whale skeletons show Megalodon teeth marks, the crushing wounds of a predator that doesn't care about killing efficiently. Megalodon breaks things. Some show Livyatan teeth marks, the precision bites of an animal hunting with intelligence, with strategy, with teeth designed specifically for tearing flesh from within a carcass. What we think happened is this. Megalodon hunted larger prey, fully mature baleen whales at sea. Livyatan hunted younger animals, smaller whales, and possibly scavenged on carcasses Megalodon killed. They coexisted because they weren't quite hunting the same niche, but they were competitors, and neither gave way without resistance. Scientists don't name animals carelessly. The etymology matters. Livyatan comes from Job, the biblical text. The Leviathan is described as a creature of such immense power that nothing on earth can match it. A creature that pulls ships down, that fights back, that cannot be harnessed or tamed. Can you draw out Leviathan with a fishhook? Job asks. The implied answer is no, you cannot. When Lambert and Bianucci and the team named this whale Livyatan, they were making a statement. This wasn't a whale that had evolved to eat krill. This wasn't a creature shaped by 1 billion years of gradual selection for efficiency. This was a predator that had evolved to hunt the largest animals in the ocean, and to do it with such lethality that nothing could stand against it. Then they added melvillei to the species name, after Herman Melville, the author of Moby Dick. Published in 1851, 159 years before the fossil was found, by a man who had never seen a whale's ancestor and was writing purely from imagination and the oral tradition of 19th century whalers. What this means is profound. Melville, writing in 1851, was describing a sperm whale that hunts whales. A cetacean that doesn't passively filter feed or hunt squid. It hunts other cetaceans. It crosses open water to find prey. It uses strategy and intelligence. Melville didn't know about Livyatan. He had never seen one. But his fictional whale, the one that commands obsession, that represents the unknowable depth of nature, that whale has a fossil ancestor. Moby Dick is a reboot of a hunting strategy that worked for millions of years. The macroraptorial sperm whale hunted whales in the Miocene. Melville imagined it in the modern era, and when scientists found the fossil, they named it to honor both the biblical monster and the literary one that came closest to capturing what it was. Livyatan vanished around 9 million years ago. That's only 3 to 4 million years after it was thriving in Peruvian waters. For a large predator, for an animal that had been the apex of its world for millions of years, that's fast, unsettlingly fast. We don't know why. The leading theories are these. The baleen whale population collapsed. Something shifted in ocean current or climate that eliminated the large, slow prey Livyatan depended on. Unlike Megalodon, which survived much longer into the Pliocene, the macroraptorial sperm whale lineage may have been too specialized. It had committed entirely to a single hunting strategy, optimized to an extreme. When the prey changed, the predator couldn't follow. Megalodon was adaptable. It could shift prey, hunt in different waters, adjust. Livyatan, with those enormous teeth in both jaws built for one specific kind of kill, had no pivot available. The ocean cooled. The Miocene transitioned into the colder Pliocene. The prey base shifted, and an animal built for perfection in one narrow context discovered that perfection in a narrow context is a liability when the context changes. What we do know is that the macroraptorial sperm whale lineage went extinct. Livyatan was the last of them. When it died, the final individual, somewhere in the deep Miocene ocean, the entire evolutionary strategy died with it. Modern sperm whales diverged from that ancestor. They adapted. They became squid hunters, solitary, deep divers. They survived by being generalists, by not depending on a single prey species, by being smaller and more flexible. Livyatan couldn't adapt, or it didn't need to, until adaptation was the only option left. What remains is a tooth the size of a human forearm, functional teeth in both jaws, bite marks on fossils, a paper published in Nature, and a name that means the thing nothing can defeat. That was the reality of the Miocene ocean. Not the peaceful balance of nature documentaries, not the harmonious coexistence we imagine when we think about ancient oceans. An arms race between giants that produced the largest functional teeth in Earth's history, attached to an animal whose name means the thing nothing can defeat, found by accident, in a desert, in a fossil box that nobody had gotten around to sorting for years. The Leviathan was real. It was worse than the legend, and it's been waiting in the rock for 13 million years to be recognized for what it actually was.